today I'm gonna share a hack to make Julia Child's famous 3-hour beef bourguignon in under 30 minutes. It's perfect for any date night, so if you're thinking about flowers, throw them out the window and make this instead. So follow me and let's turn up the tasty. So today we are making beef bourguignon. Beef bourguignon, beef bourguignon, or as the French like to say, beef. I'm better than you. Whatever you call it, this is one of Julia Child's most famous recipes, and actually she says in her book, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, that this is one of the most delicious beef dishes known to man. We're gonna put that to the test today with a little time-saving hack. Actually, it's a big time-saving hack. Beef bourguignon takes about 3 hours to cook and braise perfectly. You typically use a lean cut of meat like a round or a chuck, which takes a lot of time to break down. But today we're gonna substitute that with beef filet. Now this is select beef filet mignon, that's wrapped in bacon. It's something I get from my local butcher, and all of this right here, we have about a pound and it ran about $16. They'll typically use end scraps or select, and they will hold it together with this toothpick. But let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're gonna do is just go ahead and remove these 2 bacon slices. As you can see, that's a thick cut of bacon right there. Remove over here. And we're gonna go ahead and dice this bacon up and get it cooking. Gonna start this at about a medium 5 out of 10 heat. And from here we dice. Okay, so now that we got this dice, we're just gonna go ahead and get that in there and let that begin to render down. Now we're gonna remove these toothpicks. In this case, they are right here. See, look at that. We have basically kind of an end piece that's being held together with that toothpick, right? That's a cleaner spot piece, but I've seen these, again, 2 or 3 pieces held together with that toothpick, bacon wrapped, also adds a lot of flavor. But we're gonna go ahead and get this diced up. We need about a cup and a half of diced beef. And this is where the real time-saving hack comes into place, because filet meat is already tender. Matter of fact, it's so tender, tender is in the name, beef tenderloin. This can be an expensive cut of meat. I see this sold as whole fillets for like $25 a pound, and that's kind of expensive. So you can always substitute this with another cut, like a ribeye or a strip steak. I even think sirloin, a tender sirloin, would work really well. But we're gonna go ahead and get that diced up. And this is where the major hack comes in. We're gonna take this 3-hour cook, one of the best beef dishes known to man, and we're gonna make this in 20 minutes. Here we go, we got some nice sized beef chunks right there, right there. All right, go ahead and get this, let's set this to the side. Turn that down. Okay, actually 5 out of 10 on this was a little bit too hot. I'll bring it down to about a 4 out of 10. I mean, no one likes to get pelted with hot bacon grease, and that's really the key to rendering bacon without that happening, is to have it set at a low enough heat. So I'm gonna turn this down to about a 3.5, and this is actually one of the concepts Julia talks about in her book, is that it's really up to the chef to sort of regulate that heat as it cooks. If you see it's cooking too hot and fast or potentially getting burnt, turn it down. If it's not cooking fast enough, turn it up and manage that as you go. All right, now this bacon is done cooking as I like it cooked, which is a nice chewy texture, not overly crispy, some balance there. We're gonna get that out of there, but we're gonna go ahead and leave the grease in. Next up, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of carrots sliced and a 1/4 cup of onions sliced thin as well. We're gonna let these cook for about 2-3 minutes until they're nice and soft. Now, one thing you'll notice about this recipe, it's really a date night recipe. It's enough for about 2 people. You could double these portions for 4 people, and if you're cooking for more than 4 people, just go ahead and make the original recipe. But we're gonna let these cook for about 2 minutes. Now, I would typically season everything right here, but there's a lot of salt in this bacon grease, so I'm not gonna add anything additional here yet. Let those get nice and soft. Now, when it comes to seasoning, there's already a lot of salt in that bacon fat, but I like a nice kick. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some pepper to flavor right here. And I think the other ingredients will help balance the pepper out. Okay, these have been cooking for about 3 minutes. Here we have a half cup of sliced white mushrooms. We're gonna go ahead and add those to our mix and let those soften up for about 2 minutes. All right, while your onions and carrots and mushrooms are cooking, it's really important, as the chef, to taste test the bacon. I do this every time I cook bacon. You should too. I mean, really, isn't everything better with bacon? It's truly like the duct tape of the kitchen. If you're not happy with 2 slices, add 4, add 6. Can you really ever have too much? Next up, we have a clove of garlic, or a tablespoon if you buy it pre-minced like I do. Sorry, teaspoon, a teaspoon of garlic. And get that in there. Let that begin to cook up. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, now that I can smell that garlic, I'm gonna go ahead and add this beef right here. Let that begin to brown up on all sides as well. Now from here, you really don't want to move the meat around a whole lot. Just let it kind of get some good color on it. It is important here to make sure that your skillet isn't set too high. Right now I'm rocking, I'm back. I moved it back up to about a 5 out of 10 because the heat really dropped when I put in all the meat. So I wanted to bring it back up to about a 5 out of 10. That's lower than how I would typically sear it because I want to avoid burning the garlic and my other vegetables in there. And this smells, again, absolutely tremendous. What I'm really looking for here is some nice color on that meat. I don't want to overcook it because it is filet. So we got some really nice little crispy edges on there, some nice crust. I'm going to go ahead and mix this all in with the vegetables. Get it all married together. Okay. Next up, we have 1 tablespoon of tomato paste that goes in there. And 1 tablespoon of flour. Go ahead and blend that all together. That will help thicken our sauce once we add some of our other ingredients. What you want to make sure is there's really no clumps in there with the flour. Next up, we have 1 glass of red wine. We're going to go ahead and add that in. Move that around. Next up, I have a half a cup of beef broth, which I'm going to add. Fittingly measured in a rocks glass. It's very interesting. We should note that Julia Child lived a very long life, and she attributed her health to red meat and gin. So I'm not much of a gin guy, but I am a bourbon guy. So we have a little bit of bourbon here. She might use brandy or cognac back in her day. And it's really important to get this in. Her recipe doesn't call for this, but I think she'd appreciate this next move. About 1 or 2 tablespoons. You don't need a lot. And everything goes better with bourbon. One more thing. I'm gonna go ahead and add this bay leaf. Now, if you don't have the bay leaf, don't add it. I think it adds a lot of flavor. But I don't think I've ever had a dish where I go, oh, this would be so much better if it only had a bay leaf to it. But I do think it promotes a good richness. Now we're gonna go ahead and let this boil up until it's nice and thick. So this is gonna take about 10 minutes to really thicken up and simmer down. And while that's going on, you have a whole host of options available to you. You can make your side dish. Today I'm gonna serve this with some mashed potatoes, but butter noodles go really well with it also. Julia says a green vegetable like sweet pea specifically complement this dish really well. You can grab a drink, or one of my favorite ways to kill time is searching for conspiracy theories online. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. What conspiracy theories are you digging right now? And of course, we know that they're not really theories, it's the truth. One of my favorites, if you're so interested, is that birds aren't real. In fact, they're government drones. Where am I going with all this? Anyway, I'll be right back. All right, this has been simmering for about 10 minutes. And as you can see, it has some really good thickness to it. It's really starting to coat the spoon. And I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this off. From here, I have 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna go ahead and add that in and mix. While this butter is melting, I'll let you know I spent my time making some mashed potatoes that I'm gonna serve with this, grabbing a little extra bourbon, and I looked into it. Turns out some birds are real. Maybe not all of them though. Once that butter melts in, this is where I like to check for flavor. Got a little teaspoon right here, sorry, tablespoon. And little bit on there. It's hot. That tastes amazing. That tastes amazing. It's salty enough for me, which is interesting because I didn't even add any salt. That is from just cooking the bacon in there. And of course I'm gonna add the bacon here in just a moment and I'll show you there, but I do want a little bit more pepper. I do like a little bit of the bite that it brings and, oh! It's not always perfect around here, guys. When it comes to salt and pepper, I usually don't include amounts. It all comes down to personal preference. So let's go ahead, move this over to the side. Now that I've moved that to the side, let's go ahead and build our bowl. A little bowly, if you will. All right, mash down in there. We're gonna take our spoon, come right over here, right over the top. Look at that, that looks amazing. Oh my goodness. Finally, believe it or not, there is some bacon left. I had a couple more pieces off camera, but we're gonna sprinkle that on top. It's gonna give it some nice salt, some nice texture, and then add a little color with the parsley. Now it's time for my favorite part, to test the results. I wanna get a little bit of the mushroom, the bacon, the parsley, all the vegetables, and of course, the beef. Pretty big bite. It's gonna take a moment. I mean, the review's ready. I'm just having another bite because it's that good. A couple observations here. The beef is incredibly tender, and that's exactly what we would expect. Honestly, you'd have no idea that I didn't prepare this to the traditional recipe. The wine adds a nice richness to that. You don't taste any of the alcohol from that or the bourbon. The bacon adds a nice texture profile to it. Gives it a little bit of crisp on top, while the carrots, onions, tomato paste add a little bit of sweetness. I am absolutely confident Julia Child could not tell the difference between this shortened version of her recipe and the recipe itself. It is that good and it's much quicker. We brought this recipe down from 3 hours down to 30 minutes, which is the perfect, ideal solution for any date night. I mean, let's face it, 10 minutes of that alone was just boiling. You could do anything. Now you may notice that I don't have a date here. It's sad, but I consider you my date. I hope you've had a lovely evening, and I look so forward to doing it again. I'll see you soon.